Good afternoon and welcome to the Assembly of Osteopathic Graduate Medical Educators, or AOGME's webinar, showcasing one program's approach to online matchmaking for prospective residents through the Virtual View program. My name is Alenta Long and I serve as the Executive Director of AOGME. We're very pleased to have Dr. Nolan and Dr. Chen as our featured speakers today from Eglin Air Force Base Family Medicine Residency Program. To learn more about AOGME or our webinars, please go to acom.org/AOGME. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. This webinar is being recorded. The webinar recording will be posted on the AOGME's webpage. All webinar participants are now in listen-only mode. If you experience technical issues during the webinar, please use the chat feature and raise your hand and we will assist you. If you have questions for our presenters during the webinar, please feel free to submit them anytime through the Q&A feature. If time remains, questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. I'll now very briefly introduce our speakers. Dr. Justin Chen is a second-year family medicine resident at Eglin Air Force Base. He's a graduate of the Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine, Carolinas campus. His interests include sports medicine, academics, and alternative medicine. He chose family medicine because of the broad spectrum of care that he could provide to his patient population. Dr. Chen seeks to complete a fellowship in sports medicine. Dr. Bonnie Nolan is a second-year family medicine resident, also at Eglin Air Force Base. She graduated from the University of Alabama at Birmingham School of Medicine. Her interests include geriatrics, alternative medicine, and healthcare disparities in underserved populations. She's passionate about providing continuity of care in family medicine and enjoys teaching and mentoring future primary care physicians. Again, we're so pleased to have our speakers with us today for their willingness to share this innovative program. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Nolan.
Hey, thank you, Alanetta. Yeah, my name is Bonnie Nolan. I just realized on our PowerPoint slide that Dr. Chin and I both have ourselves still listed as PGY2s, but tomorrow is July 1st, so I forgot to promote us to PGY3s. But anyways, we are current residents at the Eglin Air Force Base Family Medicine Residency Program. Thanks so much for joining us today for our presentation on Virtual View. It's our program that we've created at our residency as an online experience for prospective applicants and those that are interested in applying to family medicine and particularly our program. I'll let Dr. Chin get into the overview here. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
So today we'll talk about the background of our Virtual View program, the goals and objectives of our program, an experience summary, the format of the experience, an evaluation of the experience, some of the lessons that we've learned thus far, and some possible future applications of our Virtual View program. Just before we get started, I'd like to say that this document is proprietary. There's no further distribution permitted. Requests to use or disseminate this material must be made to Dr. Nolan or me. Her email is listed there. And any permitted use must include appropriate reference and attribution to the Eglin Family Medicine Residency. And the views expressed within this publication represent those of Dr. Nolan and myself. They do not reflect the official position of the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. government, or the Department of Defense at large.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Chin. All right. So some background on kind of what led up to the creation of Virtual View is the pandemic. COVID-19 burst on the scene in March of this year when the president declared a national state of emergency on the 13th of March. Around that same time, the Department of Defense, which Justin and I are under in the Air Force, issued a travel ban. And also around that time, most of the U.S. medical schools ended up either canceling or postponing clinical rotations in the following, kind of like the last 2 weeks of March timeframe. One particular experience that was impacted is the audition rotation or the sub-internship experience for fourth-year medical students. Either they were canceled or severely limited due to travel restrictions. This is a problem because these audition rotations or sub-internships are very important experience for fourth-year medical students to start connecting with residency programs. A lot of times the programs that they rotate end up being programs that they will apply to and potentially rank pretty highly on their rank list. It's a very important experience for fourth-year students to build rank lists for Match 2021. And so this was kind of the problem that Dr. Chin and I were looking at in the couple of weeks after around the time of March.
So our goals and objectives of our Virtual View program were to facilitate better informed decisions by our fourth-year medical students regarding their audition rotations and creating their rank lists.
Some objectives that I'll go through for our Virtual View program. The first one, and probably kind of the most unique feature of our program, was to digitally display through the internet the local residency culture, our particular program values, and the individual resident experience without the risks of travel. Other goals that we had were to establish relationships with the students who were limited in their travel opportunities. We also wanted to showcase the scope and practice of family medicine at a very crucial time in these med students' career decisions where they're looking at specialty choices and starting to think about that rank list. We also wanted to address prospective applicants' individual questions and concerns regarding family medicine as a specialty, as well as education at our particular program. For family medicine in general, we wanted to increase med students' positive attitudes toward family medicine. We also wanted to increase their understanding of the scope and practice of family medicine. We also wanted to enhance their perception of the academic rigor and the training that's involved to become a family medicine doc. And finally, and most importantly for us, was to reduce their decisional conflict for these prospective applicants regarding their residency rank list. We wanted to help them feel more confident about the choices that they were having to make now that they had these limited travel options in the COVID-19 pandemic. All right.
So our experience summary was divided into a series of 2 encounters with these medical students. Firstly, we had a one-on-one session where they chatted with either Dr. Nolan or me, and we talked about our family medicine experience here at Eglin and as family medicine residents. And then there was a group video tour performed by Dr. Nolan that showed these prospective applicants our residency site here at Eglin and particular areas of interest. They also had the opportunity to ask questions after the video virtual tour was completed. We'll get into the details of these a little later.
Awesome. So just some kind of format of the experience, who we were targeting. We contacted specifically rising fourth-year medical students. So this was in April. So they were current third years, but now they're fourth years. So class of 2021. We contacted them through our medical student clerkship director, Dr. Chevenin. He had a list of students who had already contacted him through email in regards to trying to set up a rotation, and this was pre-COVID situation. We also used a Facebook group for military medical students, and as well as through the Uniformed Services University Family Medicine Department, some email addresses of medical students who had expressed interest in applying to family medicine. So we contacted them, and through either emails or the Facebook posts, we provided them with a link to a Google Sheet. It's a spreadsheet that is stored in the cloud. It is remotely accessible as well as editable, and you can see these edits in real time. So we shared that link with them. The format of the sign-up sheet itself had essentially half-day blocks available, and each half-day block had 4 slots that were available for the student to choose from the different days.
Once the prospective medical students had signed up on the sheet, we took this information and arranged times for the one-on-one call, typically via texting just because it was easy. And then after the one-on-one session was completed on the telephone, the resident, Dr. Nolan or myself, would conduct we would discuss what the upcoming availability of those students for a virtual tour and what mode of video chatting they would like to use. Typically, we ended up using Zoom for ease of access as well.
Some other logistics, kind of housekeeping items. So the resident who was hosting the video tours would then form groups of students who had informed their preferences as far as time and platform. Then the students were informed via SMS text messaging of their upcoming tour date and time. Each tour group typically consisted of anywhere from 2 to 8 total students. And generally speaking, we had one video tour that was available per day on the days that the virtual view experience was offered on the Google sign-up sheet that we had.
So the one-on-one call occurred over the telephone. It provided the prospective applicant an opportunity to talk with Dr. Nolan or me about family medicine, about Eglin, about the application process, whatever specific questions they had for us. The average length of each phone call took roughly 15 to 25 minutes, sometimes longer depending on the questions that were asked or the discussion that we were having. Some common topics of discussion, we do have an FAQ, which we will place up on the screen much later. But some of the topics that we discussed are areas of concentration, sports medicine, our obstetrics curriculum. For the osteopathic students, we discussed OMT. Some students wanted to know, they had heard about our acupuncture, medical acupuncture that we do here, so they asked about that. Our inpatient experience, our census, our acuity, and scheduling for that, of course, and then work hours, what a typical workday schedule looks like, and then residency, resiliency, so things that we do for mental health, things that we do for fun here as residents. And so we'll display that FAQ much later once we're completed with our PowerPoint here.
Mm-hmm. All right, so some more format of the experience, the group video tours. So they were conducted by typically myself on my personal smartphone using a video calling software of both of the parties' choices. So we kind of get together, decide what we wanted to do, as well as agreeing on a time that we were going to do that group video chat. The group meeting format allowed participants to see and talk with myself, the resident host, as well as other student participants. For most of the tour, I used the rear facing or kind of the main camera on the phone and conducted a tour showing the prospective applicants areas of interest. And it's modeled after a residency tour similar to what you'd provide to interviewees during the match season.
Some areas of interest that Dr. Nolan included in her tour during her virtual tour with the prospective applicants. Our resident room, which is the core of our residency, it shows our the close-knit network that is our family medicine residents, and also just the individuality of our desks, our workspace, and then the sign-out area for our inpatient teams. The FMR conference room, which is where we do our lectures and didactics, sometimes workshops for our theme days, and the legacy wall, which displays past residents that have graduated, past staff and present staff. And then they also had an opportunity sometimes to meet with the med student coordinator, Dr. Jeff Chevenin, who's a cornerstone of our program. An outpatient entrance of the Eglin Hospital, just so that they could see the building from the outside and see what Florida looks like if they hadn't been there.
Mm-hmm. Just real quick, so there's a couple of these that say they were added on tour number 2. So the first tour, I was still learning a lot about how to actually do this. And so starting on tour number 2 and then all of our tours afterwards, I included the outpatient entrance as part of that.
And some other areas of interest that she included, and this is if patient privacy allowed, of course, a clinic room. So what the clinical, or what a typical clinic room in our clinic looked like, a procedure room, which is where we perform our vasectomies, dermatology procedures, colposcopies, or LEEPs, and anesthesia rooms for our pregnant folks. Outdoor respiratory symptoms clinic. This was developed in response to the COVID pandemic by one of the residents here and one of the staff. And lastly, our smart clinic, which is where we do our sports med, OMT, and acupuncture. And as Dr. Nolan mentioned, she added this on the second bit of tours.
Mm-hmm. All right. So well, after we did these tours, we kind of looked at, who we had talked with. And initially, a lot of the feedback we got was mostly verbal, and it was a lot of students were very excited about the opportunity. They were very grateful for a chance to actually get to see a program. And in total, we were able to connect with 32 students who are planning to apply to family medicine residency in the fall of 2020. Of those 32 students, 6 of them had not previously considered our program, and in total 29 students completed the entire virtual view experience. And so that's kind of what we talked about with the one-on-one phone call and then followed by the group video tour. And through our preliminary virtual view, we were able to reach prospective applicants from across the nation. We had at least 18 states represented, and this was at no travel costs or the infectious risks and concerns of travel to these students. So given some of this really exciting impact that we felt that we had, Dr. Chin and I decided that we wanted to further evaluate our program, and I'll let him kind of get into our game plan for that.
So we decided that we would perform 2 different questionnaires. So we would take this analysis in 2 steps. The first questionnaire we've actually already completed. It was a questionnaire a post-experience questionnaire to solicit feedback from the students after approximately 1 month after having done the full experience. That is the one-on-one phone call and the video virtual tour. So we have that data. We have been synthesizing it, and we are currently in the process of analyzing it too. And so more to come on that one. The idea behind the post-experience questionnaire as well is to help improve our program. How can we make it better for students? What did they already like? And ways in which we can continue to improve for our future cycles. Mm-hmm. The second questionnaire that we sought to conduct, and we'll be doing this in around November 2020, the decisional conflict questionnaire. Now, I know Dr. Nolan already mentioned that objective. The idea behind that is to tie into that objective and evaluate or gauge the confidence level of these prospective applicants after having performed our virtual view program. Again, the questionnaire has not been performed yet. We will be doing it around November 2020, and then we will gather that data, synthesize it, and analyze it.
All right, so with that game plan in mind, so there's a couple of lessons that we've already learned so far, and this really isn't any kind of formal data or formal feedback we have. This is just some things that Dr. Chin and I have learned along the way of hosting these virtual view programs. The first one being patient privacy concerns. Obviously, we have an active patient care area here, and so just protecting that during the video tour. So what I was able to do is essentially I would have the main camera open for most of the tour, but if I was approaching a active patient care area, I would flip the camera over using whatever software, flip the camera over to view the selfie mode essentially. So they would just be looking at my face. And then what I could do is reposition myself to a better location that had an appropriate view that wouldn't expose patients. So then I could switch back to the main camera and then say, oh, here's an exam room or something like that. Another lesson about a couple different platforms we used. Zoom ended up being the platform that we used the most. Some issues that I noticed was that school emails and cell phones were blocking Zoom, especially since I was sending them out as like personal invites. And so it was really important to communicate with students to ensure that they had the link prior to the meeting. And we did miss a couple of students because they never got the link from me. Going with the Skype platform, and kind of a reason why we ended up going away from Skype, it doesn't always update accounts in real time. And so if a student never had a Skype account before and ended up trying to create one the day of, it was difficult to locate them on the Skype software to then connect with them and start that video chat. So those were a couple issues that we had and things to kind of learn from.
So from the post-experience questionnaire that I mentioned earlier, here's some feedback that we got from some of the students. Just to read a couple, one student said, "I really appreciate how transparent the program has been. Despite the craziness of COVID-19, it was really nice to see that they care about us." Another student said, "It was great to ask residents questions directly about residency life and Eglin specifically." Some areas of improvement that they had for us, which we appreciated. They wanted to see more information on our didactics program and our lecture program, something that we had not been doing because of the pandemic. We were unable to host large meetings, but we hope to do that in future cycles for them. They wanted the opportunity to meet more faculty and residents, something that's a little bit challenging, of course, with the busyness of residency life and schedules, but we will try to do that as well in future cycles. Lastly, they wanted to tour other areas of the facility, our ICU unit, the wards, and the L&D unit. It's something that is difficult, but as Dr. Nolan mentioned, there are ways to circumvent or circumnavigate the camera so that we can avoid showing or betraying patient privacy and displaying our units and our floor, so that they're able to see that.
So some future applications of virtual view after looking at the lessons that we've learned so far, there's some different applications or ways that this could be used in the future that Dr. Chin and I see. The first application being specialty choice decisions. Essentially, this would be reaching out to fall MS3s as they are starting their clerkships. This is very early on in their kind of clinical rotations experience. The goal of this would be to better inform them, first of all, about family medicine as a specialty, and then also about family medicine residency programs and what that education looks like. So the goal of that would to help their decisions in making their specialty choice. A second application of virtual view that Dr. Chin and I see is similar to the pilot experience that we had with virtual view, which is for audition rotations and application decisions. Essentially, this would be connecting with MS3s in the spring to help inform their decisions on where to complete audition rotations, and also to catch them as they're starting to think about where they're applying for residency, as far as like residency programs. The last application that we see for virtual view or virtual view type experience would be for interviews and for rank list decisions. Essentially, this would be providing MS4 applicants with a genuine experience of the residency program through virtual view to best inform their rank list. And I kind of see this in a way, almost a way to replace that dinner where the current residents at a program take the interviewees out to dinner the night before. And that's an interviewee's chance to interact with current residents, to kind of gauge the culture of the program and to kind of start making those decisions of, am I a good fit here? And I think virtual view or a program similar to ours would be a very good replacement for that.
In conclusion, we envision a future beyond the current pandemic where hopefully we're able to do audition rotations and interviews like we were before. And so we propose that through our virtual view online experience, the physical barriers that are inherent in these audition rotations and interview processes, such as monetary or travel limitations, travel costs, etc., can be minimized with our virtual view experience. Secondly, our virtual view provides a dramatically improved method for applicants and residency programs to connect in this new era of physical distancing and online networking.
All right, thank you guys so much for joining us for this discussion of our virtual view program. We've got some questions coming in here during this time, as well as some questions that were submitted beforehand, and we're happy to go through those now. We'll hit a couple of the live ones. Let's see. Oh, okay, perfect. Someone was asking, will your program be utilizing this for virtual interviews? And so kind of like I talked about, we currently are not planning on making this a formal part of our interview process. but I definitely think that this program or something similar to it could be used as part of that if we're being pushed toward virtual interviews.
So Ms. Lilia Wilson asked, perhaps I missed our video tours live at a scheduled time. So we would display a sign-up sheet, a Google Doc, like Dr. Nolan mentioned, on the Facebook groups that we mentioned above, and also through discussing an email with the USHU students. And so once we had called them on the one-on-one phone call, we then came up with a time that worked best for them based on their schedule at the time, and Dr. Nolan's and my schedule, for a time that would work best for the virtual video tour. Maximum of 6 to 8 participants in that tour.
And yes, the video tours are live, so it would be a different group of participants each time, so that way they could have the opportunity to interact with the resident host and ask questions that were coming up during the tour. All right, and then I think we've also got some questions that were submitted prior to this. Okay, so one question is, are there other innovations similar to this program by others?
And so we've been collaborating with another Air Force base, Offutt Air Force Base, and we've been developing a similar program with them. They've actually sort of switched the format of our virtual view program, and they've been doing the group video virtual tour first, and then been doing the one-on-one phone call afterwards. So we're seeking to do a multi-site study with them later once we've gathered more data on that. And additionally, when Dr. Nolan was first posting on these Facebook groups, some other military programs started adapting the Google Doc and the spreadsheet that she was using in order to sign up for similar ideas. So I think there are other programs that are similar to our virtual view program, but nothing just like it exactly.
Let's see, is this, okay, this is from Miss Lilia Wilson again. How will your program handle audition rotations given only in-state interviews are encouraged? Yeah, that's a great question. For our program, in particular, the military community is a little bit smaller, and it's also more difficult to get in-state interviews only. I think we're probably in a little bit of a unique situation. So we are currently doing audition rotations. I believe we're requiring a quarantine period for medical students that are coming. But so that's currently our situation right now. Obviously that is going to change depending on DoD policy. But let's go back to this question here. Let's see, there was one up here. It said, how do you assess students' ability to interact socially? What was that one?
Yes.
Yeah. And so this is a good question. We kind of got a sense of that just like talking with them over the phone, but to be honest, that really wasn't an objective of our program. Our biggest goal was to really try to help the medical student make good decisions for themselves regarding their audition rotations and rank lists. So this wasn't something that we were trying to formally assess in any way, and their participation in our virtual view program is not going to be in any way a part of their application packet that they submit. And that's kind of, for Dr. Chin and I, the beauty of our program is that it's a way for medical students to interact with current residents and a chance to see the program, but without that pressure of feeling evaluated or feeling like their interactions are going to, end up on some form that's going to be part of their application for residency. So.
Okay, another question I have here from Katie Hawks. Do you have advice for student applicants to establish relationships with programs? I think the easiest way, at least I know the way that I know that the medical students here reach out, is to reach out to a medical student coordinator of the residency program. And then I know that our coordinator typically assigns either a residency or a resident mentor or sponsor that will communicate directly with the student, in addition to keeping lines of communication with the med student coordinator open to talk about either the program or scheduling interviews. And then, of course, talking with the residents about questions like we got, that Dr. Nolan and I got, about residency life, the program, specifics of family medicine, etc.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Katie, I think Dr. Chin and I at least feel in the military family medicine programs that we don't do as good of a job as we could of reaching out to our medical students that are interested in primary care and family medicine. And so that really was a goal of Virtual View, is to reach out to med students that are interested in and provide an opportunity for those connections and those relationships that you're asking about. Looks like the next question we have here is, what points of interest should we capture in the video that speaks to the community they live in? I'll let Dr. Chin answer that one, and then I also want to get the FAQ pulled up, so bear with me on the screen here.
So, you know, I think it's gonna differ based on the program that you're at. I think the biggest things that we tried to highlight in our video tour was our resident room, because it really speaks to sort of something unique to our program. It's a little bit different from the regular bullpens at other residency programs, because it's a pretty large room. It fits about 30
all 36
of us, yeah. And each desk is individualized to the resident that's there. We sometimes have Nerf gun wars there. We sometimes we had a dartboard in there once upon a time. Just different items that just speak to the fun and community life of the residency. So I think highlighting it, I think the big thing to do to capture that.
Yeah, I think
points of interest.
Every program, I truly believe every residency program has their own unique culture. And I think every program needs to find something that kind of represents their culture. And for us at Eglin, that's our workroom where all of us residents work together. But I think every program has something like that, whether it's a call room or break room or something, that you can kind of help show those prospective applicants the community that they're going to be in. I'm trying to see if I can get the frequently asked questions pulled up, and I apologize, but I'm not getting that up here. I guess couple of things. I know we had referenced that we would address some of the frequently asked questions that we got from medical students. We mentioned some of the big themes already. Let me see. I'm not sure.
Here, maybe let me see. Try for a second. So are we sharing screen?
No, we're not sharing. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, and then now share screen here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yep. And then
this one.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Chin.
No problem.
Okay, here we go. This is our frequently asked questions that we have, and we'll continue to answer questions. I can just kind of scroll through this so you guys can look at that if you'd like. Okay.
So this next one, it comes from Lori Rodefeld and asking about interested in ways to promote opportunities like this to DO medical students. How do you let them know about this opportunity? So, you know, mostly if the question is about promoting our DO program, so all of that information is actually available on our residency website. As I was discussing, or as I was having one-on-one telephone calls with the students, they would typically ask me, being a DO, how much I got to use my OMT, how frequently I would do it. And so I would discuss that with them. It's well liked in this area. A lot of our patients just love it. They'll come back in, especially, of course, our OB patients. And we see a lot of those continuity patients here. I used it quite a bit in my intern year, and I now combine it with acupuncture. And that's something that we do in the military. We do medical acupuncture as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, ways to promote, you know, similar virtual view programs if there's other residency programs that are doing it, is really trying to get plugged into whatever local medical student community is around. For us in the military, there is some social media communities that we had access to, as well as our medical student coordinator, who had med students that had reached out to him about either applying to our program or doing an audition rotation. So that's really, as far as like an advertising standpoint of, like, say if another program wants to do a similar experience, that was really how we went about kind of getting the word out that we're going to do this. So.
Okay, I'll go to the next question. So from Sherlina Bohm, the question is, what are the best practices for a meaningful connection with the students? I don't think I maybe emphasized this enough, but that one-on-one telephone conversation with the prospective applicants, I thought added a really personalized experience to the whole virtual view program. That's honestly my favorite part about the program, because I felt like I really got to know the student quite well. It adds I guess a layer of personality and connection with the student that I think that enabled them to feel like they were having a personalized experience, because they were able to ask whatever they would like, and we sort of tailored that conversation to them. So I think if you're seeking to do a virtual interview process, I think a one-on-one call would be pretty ideal if that's something you're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. Having some kind of one-on-one, as well as I think an opportunity for follow-up. So if a student has questions after the experience is over, and Dr. Chin and I were pretty liberal with our personal phone numbers and personal emails, so that way students felt like they had a connection with our program and that they could reach back out to us later if they had any questions. Let's see. How do we help residents get to know our friendly family culture without an in-person visit? Kind of similar to that previous question, like we were talking about the one-on-one discussion. Honestly, I think that a lot of students felt like they got a view of, and expressed to us, at least when we were initially talking with them, they felt connected with our program just through the experience of us just reaching out to them and showing them around. And I think, that was also a chance for them to interact with Dr. Chin and I, and I don't know, I like to think Dr. Chin and I are kind of your typical laid back family med, friendly family med types. And so I think that was kind of their opportunity to get to know that, friendly family culture that we have in primary care. Let's see, next question says, how do we reach out to those that we would like, but don't know about us? So kind of similar to what we had talked about earlier, as far as kind of how we advertised our program a little bit using the existing Facebook groups that were out there. In the military, we kind of have maybe that advantage a little bit more, that there's a much smaller pool of people that you're trying to reach, and so those communities tend to be a little more accessible through social media that way. Let's see, and then potential pitfalls with virtual interviews. I hope that some of the stuff that we've already talked about like lessons that we've learned from doing this, as far as some of the technology difficulties that we've had, it is addressing some of those pitfalls. I think obviously the last thing is that as awesome as this experience is, I think a lot of people still feel like that, in person is the best, and I personally have to agree, but I think given the current coronavirus situation, I think we're having to look at other options like this, and Dr. Chin and I believe that we provided our students with a very good and as close to in-person as possible. So. Let's see. Okay, there's another question here that said, any tips for students on how to interview? Once again, this wasn't really the overall goal of our program. It was a little more for us to kind of showcase ourselves and let the students get to know us and get to know our program. Probably some things just from a professional standpoint, as far as for students that are looking at having to do virtual interviews, would be just making sure that they have a quiet background, like quiet background noise. They have a professional setting. So some people have like dogs barking in the background, which is perfectly understandable. But if it's a situation where they're being interviewed and evaluated through a video chat or something like that, those may be things to kind of look out for. Let's see, what else? Here's another one. Says, what is known about the length and desired content for applicants given the number of programs in existence and their time limitations? Yeah, that's a great question. We kind of got lucky, and as from a coronavirus standpoint, most of the students, when we were doing these tours, were either quarantined or socially distancing or distance learning from their medical schools. And so they had a little more flexibility in their schedule as far as being able to coordinate times with us. When schools are getting back to more of a regular schedule, that may become a little bit more of a hurdle. And I think having flexibility as well as offering a lot of times available for students to sign up, it would help that. Anyways, looks like there are no other questions at this point. So I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's joined us. I hope that this experience was helpful for you guys to hear about, and my hope is that this kind of practice becomes something that's commonplace to help our medical students out. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone.